They watched from high windows and low chairs, from glass tables and black SUVs, measuring the quiet way you moved through danger. At first you thought they were just another audience, another set of eyes that would vanish when the storm hit. You were wrong. These were not idle onlookers. They had the power to tilt cities, to reroute futures, to make small favors become lifelines. They saw how you survived without spectacle, and they liked what they saw. Survival without noise is rare and dangerous to the comfortable. You did not perform for them. You lived in a way that made sense on its own feet. That kind of independence is rare enough to be studied. So they started taking notes, not the kind you toss in drawers. The kind that change budgets, alter schedules, and rearrange alliances. Now they want to thank you face to face. They want to learn how you built a calm that makes empires nervous. When powerful people volunteer gratitude, understand this. They are paying attention in a currency that matters. You have a choice. Meet them with the same quiet that made them watch, or treat them like any other applause-seeking crowd. Either way, your presence reshapes how they think about power. They will come with flattering light and polite words, but you will smell caution under every phrase. Top-level agents do not offer thanks because thankfulness warms them. They offer it because they want to understand the mechanism behind your steadiness. They are curious about what made you refuse theatrics while others crumbled. That curiosity is not neutral. It is a query dressed as compliment. They will test you with small asks, gentle probes meant to assess whether you can be useful, whether your skills can be borrowed, whether your calm can be replicated as a tool. You must remember one rule. Their interest is transactional at first. Return the courtesy without giving the blueprint. Show how you hold yourself without teaching them how to own that skill. Their gratitude is a doorway. Walk through it on your terms. Take the seat they offer, but do not leave the map of your life on the table. Let them watch the result, not the wiring. That way, when you leave, they are inspired, but powerless to copy the core of what keeps you whole. When they speak, they will frame their words as stories of admiration. They will speak of late nights spent watching you rebuild, of quiet habits that look trivial until someone notices the outcome. They will praise decisions you made alone, choices no one applauded when they were being made. That praise will be intoxicating if you let it be. It humbles many. The high watchers savor the moment of connection because they rarely meet people who refuse to be owned. They want to believe that their power can encourage virtue. But be careful. Power loves authorship. It wants names on pages that will later be used for headlines. Let their thanks land like rain, not clouds of fog. Let them feel the authenticity of your steps. Speak plainly about the practice of daily work. Do not reveal how to manipulate time. Reveal instead how you keep promises to yourself, how you protect mornings, how you stack small wins. Those facts feel simple, yet they are the hardest to steal. There is a danger in accepting gratitude without discernment. Powerful people are hunters of narrative. They hunt because narratives can be shaped into influence. They will listen to your story and then decide to file it away as a tool or a warning. Do not confuse praise with safety. The face-to-face meeting is a field study. Expect their eyes to drift toward logistics, toward who you trust, toward the systems you keep. You must be careful how you answer. Honesty is noble, but oversharing is currency they will spend. Let them see your spine, but not your ledger. When they offer resources, ask in return for time, not favors that entangle you. If they want to help you grow, demand that they help on your terms. A gift that costs your independence is a loan with a leash. Power rarely gives without wanting something in return. Keep your autonomy the prize you never bargain away. They will try to position themselves as mentors in a language you have heard before. They will tell you their history of risk, their ledger of fallen allies, their gleaming trophies. You will feel the pull to compare your scars to theirs, to trade your quiet for their thunder. Resist that impulse. Their life is not your template. Their lessons are useful only insofar as they feed your goals, not their image. Tell them about practice over prestige. Tell them about the nights you showed up when no one watched. Tell them about the tiny rituals that keep your nervous system quiet. Speak in small sentences that look ordinary, but have the weight of habit. When you do that, you teach them something they cannot buy. You will not become their idea of success. You will become a reality they must respect. That unsettles them because it strips away the comfortable myth that power is only loud. The agents will admire your refusal to defend every rumor. They will applaud how you let results do the speaking. That admiration is the heart of their respect. They know how easy it is to be loud when accused. They have watched many fold under whispers. Seeing you stand steady without yelling gives them a new way to measure strength. You must use that measurement to bargain for better things. Ask for boundaries in return for cooperation. Request space in exchange for access. Powerful people appreciate systems because systems scale. When you propose a structure they can fund or support, you transform their transient curiosity into long-term allies. Do not be fooled into thinking gratitude equals loyalty. Gratitude can be bought with optics. Loyalty is far harder. Make loyalty part of your plan, not an accident. In the conversation, they will test your ethics by offering shortcuts. They will paint big wins with small compromises and watch to see if you sign your name. They will speak of deals that fix immediate problems, but leave permanence in gray ink. You must say no to quick fixes that trade your standards for temporary advantage. The long game is the only game that matters when real power is at stake. They have seen empires crumble on compromise more than on open threats. When you refuse, watch how their tone changes. Their congratulations will crack like thin glass. That crack tells you everything. It reveals whether their gratitude was flattery or a genuine invitation into mutual respect. If they recoil, you know they wanted access, not a partner. If they stay, you know you have something rare. Either way, you leave the meeting with clarity about how to choose allies next. Top-level watchers love to tell stories about fate and destiny as if those are strategies. Smile when they tell you that tale. Then, in the quiet between sentences, show them your calendar. Let them see Mondays and Wednesdays full of work, not ceremonies. Demonstrate that destiny shows up dressed like routine. They will appreciate the lesson even as they hate how simple it is. They crave myth because myth is easy to market and harder to sustain. When you show them the labor behind results, they gain a blueprint that terrifies them. It proves the myth was always a dressing for cowardice. Offer them the real work and watch their faces change. Some will retreat because they were only chasing stories. Some will stay, humbled and eager to learn the muscle of discipline. Those are the ones worth keeping. They will ask for introductions, for small bridges that link them to the people you trust. That is their way of testing whether your network is replicable and whether your influence is leverageable. You can grant introductions, but do not make your circle a shopping list. Protect the people who held you when the lights were out. Never trade them for a glossy handshake. When you do offer bridges, make sure the terms protect both parties. Insist on transparency and mutual benefit. Teach them that respect is not a favor to be bestowed. It is a currency that circulates only when both sides agree to preserve dignity. The moment you treat relationships as expendable advantages, you lose the thing that made you watchable in the first place. Finally, after the meeting, watch what gratitude becomes. If their thanks come with strings, they have already tried to buy you. If their thanks become support that respects your pace, you have a rare ally. Let the small difference guide you. Real power prefers consistency over crisis. Real power recognizes craft over noise. You gave them both without performing, and that made them want to meet you face to face. Use the meeting to set a tone. Teach them how to respect from a distance and how to help without taking. When you leave, your presence will echo in rooms where decisions are made. They will alter budgets, change strategies, whisper your name as an example. That ripple is now part of your influence. You did not ask for it. You earned it by refusing to bow. They never sit at the center of the room, demanding eyes or applause. The silent ones prefer the walls, the corners, the overlooked places where no one thinks to look. And while the loud voices fight for dominance, these figures observe. They watch the trembling in a hand, the twitch in an eye, the hesitation between words. They collect data while others burn themselves out on performance. They don't speak during the noise, because the noise is where fools reveal themselves. They wait. They let the chaos reach its peak, because they know timing matters more than volume. Then, when the last move has already been played, when the outcome is sealed, they speak, and their words carry the weight of inevitability, because they are not predictions anymore. They are confirmations. That is why their silence terrifies the manipulators. No one knows what the shadows know until the game is already over. You must understand the psychology of silence. People assume silence is weakness. They misinterpret it as hesitation, as fear, as lack of clarity. But silence, when chosen deliberately, is a weapon. It lets people underestimate you. It forces them to show more than they should. Silence starves the manipulator, because without reaction, their tactics collapse. They thrive on noise, on defense, on arguments that fuel their schemes. You gave them none of that. You sat still, you listened, you let them think they were winning. And in that stillness, you built an arsenal of truths. That is what makes the silent ones so dangerous. They don't fight when provoked. They fight when the provocation has already destroyed the opponent's position. They win by waiting until winning requires no effort. The game of shadows always rewards patience. Loud players crave validation, so they move early, they attack too soon. They gamble their reputation before the board is ready. Silent players don't. They trade speed for precision. They let others reveal alliances, expose weaknesses, and spend energy. By the time the shadow moves, the battlefield is already exhausted. That is why their strikes feel final. It's not that they are more powerful. It's that they are more disciplined. They did not waste words proving themselves during the fight. They saved their strength for the moment when one phrase, one revelation, one calm sentence collapses everything built on lies. That is the genius of speaking after the game is decided. Your words are not arguments, they are verdicts. Consider the fear in their eyes when silence lingers too long. They start to over-explain, to justify, to fill the void with excuses. That is the trap. Silence makes them reveal themselves. Silence makes them nervous, and nervous people talk too much. The silent ones know this. They weaponize the void. They let the guilty confess without realizing they are confessing. They let the arrogant dig deeper with every boast. And when the silence finally breaks, it is not to argue but to declare. That declaration cannot be undone. The shadow has seen everything, and now the shadow has spoken. No defense can erase the evidence already gathered. That's why manipulators hate those who sit quietly in the corners. They cannot anticipate when silence will shift into judgment. You carry that same power when you stop rushing to defend yourself. You stop trying to correct every rumor. Stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding. Instead, you observe. You let the talkers run their mouths until they tangle themselves in contradictions. You let the liars rewrite their stories so many times that even their allies grow suspicious. And while they waste their energy trying to control perception, you build evidence. You grow stronger. You refine your understanding of every piece on the board. By the time you speak, the audience is already tired of noise. They are ready for truth. And when truth arrives calmly, it feels like a blade sliding through the chaos. You didn't shout. You didn't scramble. You simply revealed what was already there. The shadows hold another lesson. Silence protects power because it keeps others guessing. Predictability is the greatest weakness in any game. Once they know your habits, they can bait you, trap you, manipulate you. But silence keeps your patterns hidden. It leaves them with nothing to predict. They guess, they theorize, they project their fears onto you. And in doing so, they reveal more of themselves than of you. This asymmetry is everything. You already know who they are, but they do not know who you are. That imbalance of information is what makes the silent ones untouchable until they decide otherwise. You frighten them not by attacking, but by refusing to be read. That refusal makes them feel powerless long before you make your move. You've likely noticed how the silent ones never look rushed. They are never desperate, never frantic to prove themselves. That composure is unsettling to those who thrive on control. Manipulators want visible cracks, emotional outbursts, desperate defenses. Silence denies them that satisfaction. It reminds them that their tricks have no effect. And the longer the silence stretches, the heavier the weight on their shoulders becomes. They begin to imagine what you might know, what you might say, what you might reveal. In truth, you might reveal nothing. But their fear of your potential words is enough to unravel them. The shadow wins before speaking, because the anticipation alone breaks the opponent's spirit. When the shadow finally speaks, it feels like a verdict carved into stone. People lean in, because silence has already built anticipation. One sentence cuts louder than entire speeches. One revelation shifts alliances instantly. One calm declaration ends arguments that raged for weeks. That is the secret. They don't need to talk often, because silence gives every word weight. While others drowned in noise, you stayed quiet. And when you finally chose to speak, the silence behind you amplified the sound. That is why timing matters more than volume. You win not by shouting, but by choosing the exact moment when the board has already written your victory. In life, you must learn from the shadows. Do not waste words trying to correct every lie. Do not exhaust yourself explaining to people committed to not listening. Silence is not weakness. It is strategy. Let them waste their energy. Let them expose their motives. Let them destroy their credibility with their own mouths. Then, when the time comes, speak once. Speak clearly. Speak with the force of observation, not speculation. By then, the game is already decided. Your words do not need to persuade. They only need to confirm what everyone already knows deep down. That is the true weapon of the shadow. The ability to turn silence into inevitability. Information is overrated when it stands alone. Everyone has access to scraps of knowledge, fragments of gossip, files that can be copied, screenshots that can be passed. Information is cheap in a world where whispers fly faster than bullets. What separates the intelligent from the desperate is not what they know, but when they choose to release what they know. Timing is the sharpest blade. You don't waste your secrets when the crowd is deaf. You wait until silence stretches, and then you drop a single sentence that changes the temperature of the room. The same truth spoken too early is dismissed. Spoken too late is irrelevant. But spoken at the right second becomes undeniable. Control of timing turns information into currency that can buy trust, dismantle enemies, and secure your position without lifting your voice above a whisper. You've seen people destroy themselves by speaking too soon. They expose what they know in a rush of pride or panic, and instead of winning ground, they give their opponents preparation. By the time the truth spreads, defenses are already built, excuses already rehearsed, alibis already constructed. Information without timing is a wasted bullet. You hold intelligence not in the act of speaking, but in the patience of silence. You let them believe they are safe. You let them reveal more. You let their arrogance swell until one revelation slices through every layer of their disguise. Patience weaponizes truth. You don't simply expose them. You trap them with their own actions before anyone knows what you hold. That is why timing eclipses raw knowledge. Knowledge without timing is air. Timing turns it into fire. Think of it like chess. The novice sees an opening and leaps. The master sees the same opening, but waits 3 moves until it collapses the entire board. That waiting is intelligence. You may know every secret someone holds, but if you rush to reveal it, you grant them space to frame it, to control the narrative, to rewrite perception. But if you wait, if you hold until the moment they are already leaning too far forward, the revelation doesn't just wound, it crushes, because timing magnifies impact. It strips them of preparation. It corners them in front of an audience they thought was already theirs. That audience then sees them not as clever survivors, but as exposed frauds. And you did it with one piece of truth released at the perfect second. The psychology is simple. People don't fear being known. They fear being known at the wrong time. That's why manipulators are always nervous around the patient ones. They can live with rumors. They can fight accusations. What they cannot fight is silence. Silence makes them wonder how much you know and, more importantly, when you'll choose to let it slip. That suspense corrodes them. It makes them defensive before you even speak. It forces them into mistakes that hand you more information without effort. You don't need to attack directly. You just control when the strike comes. And the fear of timing keeps them more off balance than any blow could. That's intelligence in its purest form, not the collection of facts, but the orchestration of when facts are revealed. You must also realize timing is not only for enemies. It builds trust with allies. Share truth too early, and they may not value it. Share it too late, and they may resent you. But reveal it exactly when it unlocks clarity, and suddenly they see you as someone essential. The world begins to treat you as the one who sees before others, the one who steps in when the fog is thickest. That reputation is priceless. It makes people seek your counsel, respect your silence, and fear your potential words. You don't need to constantly prove your intelligence. You let timing prove it for you. Each word lands heavier because people know you do not waste them. That weight is the crown intelligence wears. Watch how powerful people move. They don't drown the room in data. They sit with it. They hold it. They wait until the table is hungry. Then they drop a single fact that makes every other player pause. That pause is the proof of dominance. Because when you control timing, you control tempo. And tempo is the real throne of influence. You don't need the most information. You don't need to speak the loudest. You just need to control when the story changes. And when you are the one who dictates when the story changes, you are already untouchable. Timing also demands restraint. It forces you to kill the craving for immediate satisfaction. Most people spill what they know to feel important in the moment. They give up leverage because they want applause. But applause is temporary. Leverage is lasting. The discipline to stay quiet, to hold information long after your emotions scream to release it, is what separates rulers from pawns. You have to learn to let them laugh at you. Let them underestimate you. Let them believe you're ignorant. That humiliation is the price of patience. And when the time finally comes, that patience pays interest. The revelation destroys not just their story, but their arrogance for ever thinking you were blind. There is also an elegance to striking when silence has matured. Timing makes the revelation poetic. The truth doesn't land as raw data. It lands as justice. People gasp not just because of what you revealed, but because of when you revealed it. They see the symmetry, the inevitability. Timing transforms a fact into a verdict. And in that verdict, you don't simply win. You redefine the entire game. The abuser loses their mask. The manipulator loses their credibility. The liar loses their stage. Timing makes sure they fall not behind closed doors, but under the weight of every watching eye. That kind of collapse cannot be rebuilt. It is permanent. Understand this. Intelligence has always been confused with accumulation. People think the more you know, the smarter you are. But intelligence is not hoarding. Intelligence is precision. A single fact dropped at the wrong time is worthless. A single fact dropped at the right time can bring down empires. That's why you must focus less on gathering endless information and more on cultivating discipline. Discipline to hold. Discipline to wait. Discipline to strike when silence has already carved the stage in your favor. That is how knowledge turns into power. That is how intelligence becomes unshakable authority. They rarely sit in the spotlight, and that's what makes them so dangerous. The loud ones make their presence known. They want recognition. They want eyes on them, so they can feed on validation. But the quiet watchers, they play a different game. They don't crave the applause. They don't announce their moves. They study. They memorize every detail. Your habits, your strengths, your weaknesses, the enemies circling you, and the ones pretending to be friends. While everyone else scrambles for attention, the quiet ones take notes. And when the moment comes for decisions to be made, they don't need to argue. They act with precision. They act with knowledge no one else realized they were collecting. Their danger lies not in volume, but in patience. The ones who seem least threatening are often holding the sharpest cards. Think of how unsettling it feels when someone who never speaks suddenly decides to speak. Their words land differently. The crowd listens harder. Even the arrogant fall silent because silence has already built anticipation. That's why the quiet ally holds so much power. They may not move often, but when they do, the entire game shifts. They don't waste energy on small battles. They wait for the turning point, the moment when one move decides everything. And then they strike in your favor, making enemies stumble before they even realize what happened. You must learn to value these people. They will never compete for attention, but when storms rise, they are the ones who tilt the balance. The quiet ally is never obvious, but they are always watching. The psychology of silence is fascinating. People assume that silence means weakness or indifference. They think the quiet ones don't care, don't understand, or don't have the strength to stand up. But silence is rarely empty. Silence is storage. It is the act of gathering more data than anyone else has. It is the act of processing before responding. It is the act of holding back until the moment of impact. And when someone has been watching in silence, their perspective becomes wider, sharper, more dangerous. They see patterns others miss. They know the motives no one else wants to admit. That makes them lethal allies. Because while others guess, they know. And knowing at the right time is the most dangerous weapon of all. What makes them more dangerous than loud allies is unpredictability. You can always tell how the loud ones will act. They'll scream loyalty until the heat rises, then vanish when things get messy. But the quiet ally doesn't need to prove themselves with words. Their loyalty is shown in timing. They step in when others step back. They act when others hesitate. They reveal their strength only when it's most useful. That unpredictability terrifies opponents, because they never know what the silent ones are capable of. They underestimate them, and in that underestimation lies their downfall. The quiet ally doesn't need to roar to be feared. Their silence alone keeps enemies nervous. You've probably seen it play out. In groups, the one who barely speaks is rarely targeted. People focus on the loud ones, the visible threats, the obvious competition. Meanwhile, the silent ally remains ignored, underestimated, even dismissed. And that's exactly how they like it. Because invisibility is the perfect disguise. They aren't weighed down by the need to prove themselves. They aren't distracted by drama. They conserve their energy until it matters. And when the time comes, they move with such accuracy. It looks like they had the entire script planned. But the truth is simpler. They were just paying attention while everyone else was busy talking. That's the advantage of the watcher. They win because they didn't waste time performing. Quiet allies also have a unique kind of influence. Because they don't speak often, when they do, people listen. Their words carry authority, not because of force, but because of rarity. If a silent watcher chooses to side with you, their loyalty is seen as deliberate, not accidental. People assume they thought long and hard before showing their hand. That perception is power. It makes your enemies doubt their own strategies. It makes your other allies feel safer with you. The quiet ally doesn't just act. They shift how the room sees you. Their silence makes their support louder than 100 voices. That is why you must treat their presence with respect. The most dangerous aspect of a quiet ally is their memory. They don't forget slights. They don't forget lies. They don't forget who tried to bury you when you stood alone. They record everything, even when you think they aren't paying attention. And later, when the time is right, they use that memory to strike. They don't lash out in the moment. They don't argue for ego. They store, they wait, and then they deliver justice with precision. That delayed reaction is far scarier than anger in real time, because anger fades. But memory sharpened by silence never does. And when it finally emerges, it feels like inevitability. You must also see the risk. Quiet allies are dangerous to your enemies